Hello, welcome to... Well, 1911 didn't turn into a two-parter, so it was only one part. So, part 10? Anyway. It is 1912, and I have to already hold my hands up. In that, I decided to play a bit of a joke in the 1911 video, and I suggested that the 1912 was going to have an upsetting picture in it. Actually, it's not. It's the 1913 one. But shh. We'll see how many people jump to the 1913 and then find out. So, Dreadnoughts from the World, 1912. Let's start off with the Iron Dukes. Oh, beauty has a form in 13.5-inch gunwork. And 18 water-tubed boilers, 29,000 shaft horsepower, total of 21.25 knots, 12-inch belt, 12 single 6-inch guns, capable of a range of 7,780 nautical miles at 10 knots. Whew, they are gorgeous. And of course, more famously enough, they are Jellicoe's choice for flagship. Yes, Admiral Jellicoe, who doesn't have an egotistical bone in his body, picks the best 13.5-inch, the first ship of the best 13.5-inch class DR, and will get the battleship as his flagship. And then stays in it. Doesn't upgrade when the Queen Elizabeths come on, into service, because it is perfectly fine for what he needs. Because... no, I won't do that. Honestly, there isn't much in the German arsenal that can stand up to an Iron Duke class. There really isn't. They are very capable, very efficiently designed ships. And again, the British have gone for 3 classes of 12-inch, 3 classes of 13.5-inch. So this is the final class. So it tells you what the other classes that I'm going to be talking about in this year. Nevada class have arrived. The standards are here. And first things first. The Americans have gone for a treble turret. Yeah, yeah, and they've gone for a 14-inch gun. So they've got treble 14 inches, at which point the British are going, seriously? We don't even put any effort into it. We're beating the Germans and then you do that. Americans going, we are pretty. We got our standards. We've got 10 14-inch guns. Ooh-hoo, ooh-hoo. Yeah, that's the thing. If the Iron Dukes had had treble turrets as well, you know. Gone. Gavo de Conte. Style. 13.5-inch guns on the Iron Dukes, then the Americans would have been slightly upset, but no. They have got their 10 14-inch guns. So they've got the same number of guns as an Iron Duke, but they're slightly bigger, and they've got a treble turret. Now, here is the thing. The Americans are back to testing with their turbines and triple expansion engines again. And you have Nevada versus Oklahoma. Oklahoma has indicated horsepower of 24,800. Nevada has 26,500 shaft horsepower. They both theoretically have a top speed of 20.5 knots, but please no one ask Oklahoma to maintain it for long, otherwise you might have the ship shake to pieces. They both also have a theoretically range of 8,000 nautical miles at 10 knots. Again, Oklahoma will do this quite happily. Nevada might have some issues. Now, what else did Nevada have that was cool? Or class have that was cool? They had a lovely thick armor belt. In fact, these are possibly, again, some of the better battleships being designed in the period. So, as I said, I keep trying to make the point. There is a sort of a dual race going on. There's a technological race with the Americans and I would say the Italians, and there is a numbers race with the Germans. Now, the Germans are building a battlecruiser. Happy days, it's got 12-inch guns. Finally, it's not 11-inch guns. It's the Deflinger class. And it's got 8 guns, and it's got super firing, so it can fire forward and aft. And I feel like I should be getting more excited about this class. You know, I feel like I should be excited for the Germans that they're getting this. This looks like the battlecruiser. This looks like you're trying to get an equivalent. And yet, I keep thinking back to the Tegenhoff class. I keep thinking back to the other designs which have already been out. And I'm wondering where the innovation is. And then you have the variations of armament. You have the fact they have 12 15 centimeter or 5.9 inch guns on the Flinger, but they have 14 in Lutzow and Hindenburg. The torpedo tubes on Lutzow and Hindenburg are also bigger. Armor belt is still pretty much the same as previous classes of battlecruisers. I keep thinking and going back to this, why are the Germans building ships like this? They're not even arguably German versions of the British ships. Unless you really are believing your own hype that your 12-inch is equivalent to their 13.5-inch. Because if you are believing that hype, I have a bridge to sell you. Or a freezer for some Eskimo friends of yours. Sorry, bad joke. The point is, this is a lot of ship. It's a lot of investment. It's a lot of money. And what are the Germans really getting from it? What are they really getting in terms of capability? Not much. Not much, really. Sorry. Might be going to get a Tafra visitation. I'm not sure. Looking in at the window. Is he coming in?
I'm just coming to see what you were doing.
That's good. Hello.
I thought because you're going. Wait.
Yes, hello. How are you doing, little boy? Now, it's rather suitable that I have this gentleman here to discuss the Borodino class. Because, of course, the Borodino class are the Russian battlecruisers. And there have been much discussions about the fact they are fast enough or not fast enough? Are they fast? I say they are on the fast battleship spectrum, which makes sense for the Russians. Think about where they're fighting. They're fighting in the Black Sea to get out into the Mediterranean. They're fighting in the Barents Sea. Hello. Everywhere they go, they've got to fight their way through people before they can get anywhere. Hello. This is good.
Shall I take them?
It's okay. You can stay here while I do the Borodinos. Then you can take them. And so that makes sense. That what they're building makes sense. I like the Borodino class because they do make sense. Go. I also like the Borodino class because someone has gone, hang on, everyone else is building bigger guns. Let's build big guns. And they've taken their previous design and gone, right then, we like having treble turrets. We like having them on as simple level for aiming as possible. That all suits us. We like a good broadside. We're going to have 12, 14-inch guns. They're a good class. I would have loved to have seen them actually in service, because I think they would have scared the bejesus out of someone. And honestly, we go back to it and you go, the Flinger. Yes, you have 8 12-inch guns. I am happy for you. I have 12 14-inch guns. I can do 26.5 knots. You can do 26.5 knots. You have a belt of 3.9 inches to 11.8 inches. I have a belt which is between 4.92 to 9.35 inches. So it's thinner at points, but it's thicker. It's thicker at the narrow points. I'm sorry, but again, it would be an interesting simulation to run, a Borodino versus a Deflinger. And in a tail-on engagement, they do have an advantage of one gun on the Deflingers. But this has 3 14-inch guns. And that has got 4 12-inch guns. So if one of these shells hits, it's going to cause more damage. And we know from what they happened in World War One, Russian gunnery has gotten good. However, to my German friends, I am sorry. Yes, you are building the Deflingers. You have built various classes of ships. They are lovely. The Royal Navy is now responding. You've finally got it into your heads to build bigger guns. And the Royal Navy responds with, we're going to jump up again. Now, here is the interesting thing. I think this is more a response to the Americans. I really do. Everyone else is now fitting 14-inch guns. The British pop up to 15. And I have a reason for this. And my reasoning goes, when everyone else, if the British were just obsessed with going up in 1.5-inch increments, which they do, but they're not really obsessed with. They're just doing it because it makes sense logistically. Then the next one above this will be 16.5 inches. But when they see everyone looking at 16 inches for their battleships, the British start planning an 18-inch gunned battleship. I.e., they jump 2 sets of 3, of 1.5. And they go down to 16 for the battlecruiser because they have to try and get up to the speed they want to achieve. 8 15-inch guns. Again, how is the RN going to start matching up? You can see the space on the design hull where they were honestly thinking, do we put in the 5th turret of 15-inch guns, or do we put in the extra horsepower? Because they have 24 water tube boilers, which is not quite getting onto battlecruiser level, but is fairly decent. Powering 4 shafts with 75,000 shaft horsepower. Yes, these are upgraded boilers than what have been available previously. Not as good as the small form boilers that they've been looking at, some of them, but they are pretty darn good. They displace 33,000 tons in normal, and in deep load it goes up another 600 tons, well 700 tons pretty much. Their waterline belt is 13 inches thick. They have a top speed of 24 knots. Your comfortable speed advantage of your battlecruisers is now looking less comfortable. Especially if they get caught in a narrow space. Hello. You heard we were discussing the Queen Elizabeth class and you weren't here, didn't you? Hello. Yes, I know. I can't discuss 15-inch guns without you present. It's wrong, isn't it? It is wrong.
The trainee battery research assistant is free range.
Free range? Oh, good lord. Hello. Yes. So. Hello. I'm still here. The Queen Elizabeth class are basically the Royal Navy going, this is how big we can build, if we want to. And we're not even really stretching ourselves. It's a bit cruel in a way. They could be slightly less cruel about it, but they're the Royal Navy. What are the Italians responding with? Well, they're sticking with 12-inch guns because they've seen what they're fighting, and they frankly aren't that worried about them at the moment. But, you know, they've got 13 of them, so they're not really worried. They have got a 21 knot speed. They've got a decent armour. The Andrew Doria class are cute. I like the Andrew Doria class. I like the Italian battleships. They've got a nice design motif to them. They've got a nice styling. And most of all, they look like they're built for fighting in the areas the Italians are going to be fighting. It's one of my big problems with the Germans is I don't think they're actually... I think they're just going, build a battlecruiser, build a battleship. They're not actually going, hang on, what are we actually building these things to do? Or perhaps it's because they don't believe it's actually possible to do what they're going to do, so they're not worried about it. Or, I don't know. But these, they are not built with just fighting the Germans in the North Sea in mind. I know there are lots of ways they're dressed up, and it's always nice to use the excuse of the Anglo-German naval race to build them, but honestly, nothing at this point has suggested you need 15-inch guns to beat the Germans. You need 15-inch guns to take on the people who are building 14-inch gun battleships and battlecruisers. Those aren't the Germans. So, you want to stay for the next one? You do? Then you can. Good fluffy researchers. I'm going to miss you one way for a bit. Haven't been away from you in ages. So, how many Dreadnoughts and pre-Dreadnoughts are in the world at this point? Well, as you can see, the Royal Navy is currently acceleratum away from everyone. They have got battleships and battlecruisers. They are now cruising comfortably in well into the double digits. With near enough 18, they have 12 in construction. And the Germans, whilst they have a very solid 8 in service and 10 in construction, are now looking kind of outmatched. The French have 6 under construction. We can all cry a bit. The Italians have 6 under construction. We can all be happy. The Austro-Hungarians have 1 in service. Woohoo! And it looks cute. The Brazilians have 2 in service and 1 under construction. The Japanese have a couple in service and a few under construction. And it's the same with Australia, Turkey, Chile and Spain, all under construction. And yes, that is America, looking very pretty with 8 in service and 4 under construction. In simple terms, there are a lot of people building dreadnoughts. Now, I realise I have said something which is pretty controversial, so I'm going to try and answer a bit more detail. The traditional discussion given is a very two-dimensional discussion when we're talking about the naval race. As said, the discussion is it's Britain versus Germany. It's an Anglo-German naval race. And as I've kept trying to point out, as the fluffy research assistant does agree with me, it is more complicated than that, because there is a 2-level naval race going on. There is a naval race for numbers of hulls, because the Germans are building ships to theoretically to try and offset and make themselves unable for Britain to actually fight them for fear of losing its position in the world. And there is a technology thing going on as well, a technology race. Now, with some powers, i.e. Italy, the technology race is between what they're publishing, researching and talking about and what you're building. And with some, like the Americans, it's what they're building and what you're building. I would argue that it's much more the Americans driving the gun development than the British and the Germans. Why? Because the Germans take so long to upgrade their guns. Let me put it this way. If it was the Germans who were driving the use of bigger guns, you would expect them, especially as the challenging power, to be introducing those bigger guns first. After all, bigger guns, more of them, is a way to offset your numerical inferiority in hull numbers. That's what you should be doing. But it's not what the Germans are doing. The British build bigger and then the Germans follow them. The British build bigger and then the Germans follow them. So why are the British building bigger? Why do the British need to build bigger? They can churn out 12-inch battleships like in no one's business. Well, the reason they have to build bigger is because if they don't build bigger, the Americans are going to build bigger. And the Americans are prepared to build bigger, but they're building less hulls. And the British can't afford to cede either the technological lead, because that gives them a level of superiority, or the numerical lead. They have to secure both. Okay? Stop licking varnish. Yeah. Hello. You're just watching yourself now on the screen, aren't you? So this is what I'm explaining when I'm talking about the Queen Elizabeth class. And I know I can get into a lot of trouble here, because there are a lot of histories which, if you read them first way, they look like a simple two-sided race. But when you read in deep into Massey, when you start looking at a lot of the work done by Lambert, a lot of work done by other historians, you start to realise that there is a technological interplay going on around the world as well. The Americans are building 14-inch battleships. The British are 13.5-inch. The British can't afford the Americans to be building battleships with bigger guns than they are, because That's bad for the brand. The Queen Elizabeth class are therefore an answer to the American technological race and technological challenge, as much as they are an answer to the German challenge in terms of numbers. And again, here is the thing: the British are building this. Where is the German equivalent? The German equivalent isn't built till afterwards. So it's sort of a case of the British have raised the stakes again, and the British keep raising the stakes, and the Germans then try and chase after them. That's not really a challenge. Right, what have we got coming up? Oh, do you want to stretch out? Okay. Oh, you want me to tickle underneath your belly? Stop licking the varnish. So, 3rd of June, Discord suggestions from Advab, Coastal Command in the 1920s and 1930s. I'm looking forward to that one. It's live. We've got Age of Iron, and then we've got favourite dreadnoughts and battleships and battlecruisers, which I will be taking suggestions of on Discord. I'll be going through 12 classes from this period and World War II, all that, and built and unbuilt. Doing my top 12. But I'll take suggestions. And 3rd of June, Age of Empires. And as said, there will be a post that will go live later in this week. And if you have any questions, please put them on there. But also, if enough people like it, comment it, and want it, I will do a live on the 30th of May, all things being equal, after I'm back. And we'll answer questions on the battlecruisers and the dreadnoughts. Now, hope you have a good day. Take care. Thank you to everyone who's watching. Thank you to everyone who likes the videos. Thank you to everyone who shares them, especially those ones who share them on Twitter and copy me, and that's always fun. Mainly because it causes my colleagues to laugh and giggle. Thank you to everyone who's on Discord chatting away. Thank you to everyone who's a patron who funds my research. Thank you everyone who's, I said, liked, subscribed, or pressed the little bell down there when their lives come up. Thank you.